Here we are. Hello, it's Chris, Mr. Moneyfingers Haddad, along with Matt. Is it Bacak? Basic?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Bacak.
right.
Bacak. I got it right the first time. How crazy! Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah,
I'm
thanks for having
excited.
me.
I'm excited because we met originally, I think, at Ryan Lee's thing, as we discussed not too long ago, like 12 years ago or something.
Which is a long time in
We've been doing
internet
this.
years.
We've both been doing this a long time at this point. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we met at that, and then for whatever reason, you and I have never actually just like sat down and had an actual conversation all these years. So I'm excited
No,
to do it. Yeah. Where do you live, Matt? Where are you based out of?
I am based out of Peachtree City, Georgia.
Oh, cool.
So Atlanta, South Atlanta, 20 minutes.
Nice. Have you always been from around there?
No, actually, I grew up in Ohio,
Oh, okay.
Youngstown, Ohio. Well, kind of outside there. And then my dad lost his job when I was about 16. So we
Hmm.
ended up moving to Birmingham, Alabama.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool.
then from there, I graduated from college and quickly went over to Atlanta and moved around Atlanta a little bit.
Nice. Cool. So how did you, one thing I always like to ask people is like, how did you get sucked into marketing world in the first place? I feel like everybody I know who's been in this for a long time, we're kind of like the island of misfit toys a little bit, right? Like I got
Yeah.
fired. I literally got fired from every job I ever had because I was bad. Like between my bipolar and my general problem with authority, I got fired from every job I ever had. And then the only reason I got into marketing and became reasonably wealthy because of it was because I could not actually keep a job. If I had been more sane and more able to work, that never would have happened. But how, like, did you have a regular career before you got into this, or have you always been in
Nah,
marketing?
I mean, it's interesting you say that. Like, I will say that so I started my first company when I was like 12.
Wow. Yeah.
I mean, I had a paper out, and basically
Yeah.
it was I had a paper out. I had two paper outs actually all around Cortland, Ohio, where I grew up.
Yeah.
And then I turned all my paper out subscribers into lawn care clients. And so I was, doing stuff like that. And one of the cool things about that experience
Yeah.
as a young kid was I used to have one of the first places I would go to was I call it the old folks homes because of my age, but when I was there, the assisted living home. So I delivered to the assisted living home, and I used to hear people say, "Man, if I was a kid of your age with the money that I had, because I had good money because I was delivering papers
Yeah. You
and
were doing the work. Yeah.
and collecting. Actually, I had all my paper out, or my paper out. I delivered papers and I collected money because I'd go to people's houses, but I'd also collect the cash from the lawn care clients. But I had all my friends mowing the lawns for me, so it was kind of nice. But I say that because they said, if I had the money you had, this is what I would do with my life, and these are all the mistakes I made in my life. And so that really impacted me on really started. In this, I was probably 12. I started investing in the stock market
Wow.
because they said that they should do that. So I was doing drips and all these other crazy things. But I became pretty entrepreneurial, and I started reading biographies back then.
Yeah.
I remember reading Bill Gates' biography, like when I was 12 years old, like
Wow.
when they just kind of came
How
out with
old are you
that.
now? Like 50 something, like early 50s somewhere?
42,
You're
actually.
40. You're younger than me. I did not know. But
But
you got that awesome gray hair. So
dude, honestly, I've thought about covering it up, but
oh,
I
don't,
have so
don't.
many clients that say they actually buy more from me now that I got
Yeah.
gray, because when I started, I've been marketing online for more than half my life.
Because
So
so you were one of the Wonderkins back in the day.
yeah, I started years ago when Ryan Dice and I were
Yeah.
at an event. Like I remember being at like Big Seminar One.
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember those, but some people might not even know what we're talking about. But like they had Armin stood everybody up, say who's the youngest in the room, and it was me, Ryan Dice, with the last to sit, and Greg. And I picture his face. He did the
Yeah,
piano
yeah.
thing.
Bet I know
Anyway,
him.
we're the
Yeah.
three guys that were the youngest people in the room, and now I'm like, people think I'm one of the older. But I say like I started reading biographies. I remember being in college
Yeah.
and reading. I was reading the Advertising Wizard. I fell in love with marketing. I even say
Well,
this. I
hold
don't
on
think
really
in high
quickly. How
school.
did you? So you said your dad lost his job when you were young. Did you grow up rich at all? I mean, you seem like you were born
Rich.
like you've had hustle from a long time, right? So
Yeah, no.
were
So
you
the
kind
reason
of
I had to
poor
get a
growing up?
job
Yeah.
is because we were lower middle class. My dad worked in a steel mill, so my dad
Okay.
started to scrape, cleaning the floors, pushing the broom
Like
all the way
real blue
to
collar, you're working
working.
all day kind
Oh,
of
we
work.
were lower middle
Yeah.
class. I mean,
Yeah.
we had budgets, really small budgets.
Mhm.
I went to school, kids were making fun of me because they were wearing Nikes and I was wearing these crappy
Oh
things from
man.
Kmart because
Yeah.
we didn't have a Walmart back then and where I lived. And so everybody was making fun of me. My dad said, well, if you want those shoes, then you need to go get a job and make the money and do it. And I'm like, I'm 14, dad, or I'm 12. How am I do
Yeah.
it? So I got a paper out, like that was like the only thing I could actually do.
So where do you think that hustle came from? So you got like I mean, a lot of people I talk to on this show and other things, they have a similar background, right? They don't come from money. And then I think it's interesting because when you don't come from money and then you start making money, it's such a different thing for you than it is for people who have always been in that world, right? Or always kind of been okay. I always take I'm always kind of grateful that I was pretty poor in my early to mid 20s because it made it a lot easier for me to save money and really understand what money was supposed to be for me in my life when I finally started making some. But like, where did that hustle to like not just get a paper route, but start having other people doing the deliveries for you and like that entrepreneurial drive? Where do you think that came from?
My grandfather.
Yeah.
My grandfather recently, my grandfather was probably one of my first mentors. Like he would always talk to me about the stock. My grandfather, I hate saying this about him, but the truth is I said this when he passed last year. I was talking to my uncle and like, we were the ones that lived my grandfather's dream. Meaning my grandfather was always, man, he wanted to do all this stuff. He wanted to be rich. He was investing in the market thinking he was going to do this. And, I wish I would have done this and wish I had done this and wish I had done this. And, but he never did anything. It was always that woulda, coulda, shoulda that he had. And so for me, I think it's his dreams kind of, and I created my own, but yeah. I remember, I was 14 years old and on my door, like when I was walking out my door, when I lived in Ohio, it was like this guy that made $1 million from the stock market. And, he was 20 or 30 years old. And I was like, I want to be that guy.
So you didn't have like Pamela Anderson on your wall. You had
no, I really didn't. Actually, I lost a lot of girlfriends growing up. I remember like even a lot of girls were like, man, all you do is talk about business, talk about money. Cause even when I made it, right. When I remember, I don't know. I was on TV. I was on a television show that went around for a while about how to make money the right way or something like that. And,
cool. And what was the show?
When that hit, it was, hold on. It was,
oh, there you go.
It was Lifetime on Lifetime. So all the women watched it. All my ex-girlfriends' moms watched it. And I started getting phone calls from my ex-girlfriend's moms. And I remember one lady called up and I told my wife, I said, I got to take this. I don't know why, but I'm going to take this. And I had to tell my wife, like, this is my ex-girlfriend's mom, but she's calling me for some strange reason. And she just said to me, she goes, Matt, I never believed you, but you made it. And I'm like,
isn't it crazy how TV does that? Because so I was on the Rachel Ray show years ago for my Michael Fiore thing, right? Back in 2010, and it's really interesting. Like you write a book, people see you on a certain level, but if you're on television, no matter what it is, like I met people who saw me on television, they treated me like Brad freaking Pitt or something. It was like you're a big deal because my mom's friends just saw me on the Rachel Ray show weirdly, and we're like, why is your son on TV with somebody else's name? And it was like this big thing. My mom got to dine out on for years and years afterwards. It's a really strange psychological thing. Like suddenly you're famous to people.
Yeah.
So, okay. So you had the paper route, you had that hustle when you were a kid. Did your dad go to college? Were you like one of the first people in your family to go to college?
Actually was. I think I was. I mean, maybe my uncles, but like my dad never went. My mom was going to college and then my dad and mom were like, my dad was a football star. My mom was the cheerleader. They got married, had me. So my mom went to college.
Were they pretty young when you were born? Your parents?
Yeah, my mom was probably 20.
Okay.
But then she quit school to raise me and my brother. And then when I was, and this is actually an interesting thing about, so like during that time period, my mom and dad were in Shaklee. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. I mean,
no,
it's a network marketing company.
Oh, okay.
They were in Shaklee and I used to be in the car all the time and all they listened to was these tapes, Think You Grow Rich and all this stuff. And so I think they did kind of well in that, like where they went and they got, they got a car and all this other stuff. Yeah. But I do remember like the one thing I told my parents, I said, one of the greatest experiences was you guys used to play that. And I know you used to drive, I used to enjoy it. It's drive my brother nuts. Right. And it was just like, but I get it, let it soak in, like the possibilities of, of what can happen. And, and I always been an advocate. Like I had, I was thinking about this in high school, I had cassette tapes of, guerrilla marketing. I had all, I used to be
not even CDs, huh? You were still listening to cassettes.
I used to sell cassettes.
Back in the 90s.
VHS tapes. I used to sell, that's how long I've been doing this. Like I first started selling those things. And which it was amazing is because that was most people don't realize. So like for me, I hate saying this, but the purpose was I always felt I was different. Like I hung out with everybody. It was kind of popular, I guess. I mean, however you look at it, but I was kind of popular. Like I knew everybody. but I just felt like I was kind of a loner, even though I was in the crowds. Like I didn't feel like these were my friends. It was just people to hang out with.
I know that.
And
I know that
so,
feeling very well. I'm bipolar. I'm bipolar. I have bipolar too. So like in business, I've known you for years. I've known Ryan and Perry and those guys for years. But my mental health issues made me think that a lot of people hated me for years. Right? It was really interesting. And then I'm like hanging out with Perry, and I'm like, he's like, "No, dude, we've been friends for years now." And I'm like, "Oh, good to know." It's weird how your brain can lie to you about these
oh
things
yeah.
going on.
Well, and that's for me was my search at the beginning was like, man, I remember like I really didn't get in this business. And you asked about that. I didn't really get in this business but I love marketing. And actually, even in high school, and I didn't realize how much I love marketing. But in high school, I wrote my favorite class because they asked you the last year for all the seniors. It was marketing. I was like, I love marketing, and so I don't know. I fell in love. My mom was so. My mom went when she went back to school later on. She became a marketing major, and she actually was in ad, and she got her. I don't know, but here's the cool thing. Most people don't realize this. I was so my mom went to Kent State University, which like she was
Famous for
originally
a few reasons.
when the people got shot, like back there.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, I think or she came in a couple of years after that. But I say that is like she went back to Kent, and she was part of the advertising program or something like that. And there was no magazines for kids in sports. And so she designed this idea, this concept of her and her group at school, and they went to the ad program, and then it basically got bought out by Sports Illustrated. And so, but I was the guinea pig. So like me and my brother and all our friends were the guinea pigs on the colors and what to pick and how to do all that. So I was part of a handful of those, even like when Apple came out. So remember when I'm assuming you had apples when you went to school, like that was the first, computers we had at school. Yeah. And so, Apple came in and they did this whole thing, and my mom was part of that program where like they asked us like what to do. So she helped part of the program, and I watched her, as a young kid go to these things, and she never really pursued advertising, but it was like, it was cool. Like, so I actually fell in love with this stuff. I loved it because she was asking about colors, and she asked me about this, and then her other students in her classes, we were the test subjects.
Did you have any kind of creative background? Do you have any kind of like performing background or anything like that, or like writing or anything like that?
Sports. I mean, I play football, wrestled, and then I boxed. I was actually Golden Glove champ. I was ranked 33 in the nation by the time.
Holy crap. Damn it. But remind me never to piss you off.
Yeah.
Dude, I wasn't planning on it in the first place, but you're younger than me and you have boxing experience. So
well, the cool thing is, if recently Tyson fought Roy Jones Jr., his mom was my coach for the regions. Oh, cool. And then she wanted me, and this is actually how I got to college, because she wanted me to be his sparring partner years ago. And I'm like, I'm not going to use my head as a punching bag. And so I ended up going to college and got a marketing degree. So I did go in the marketing.
For the best, you'll get less brain damage that way, I think. I mean, you can get some pretty bad brain damage being in marketing for a long time too, I think, depending on what kind of unethical weirdos you're kind of dealing with at any time.
That is. I mean, man, I will tell you. Oh yes, you could come home from an event and like need to take a shower when you're done.
Here's a quick thing that was interesting to me is like, so in copywriting world, I'm pretty well known, right? And I go to events, and you're famous at these events too. It's always weird when people kind of treat you as a big deal. But what bothers me is because again, they'll like stand like exactly 2 feet away from you and not like actually, and it's like, dude, it's okay. But like what bothers me is when I go to these things and there's people who I do not respect or like. They're usually from far Eastern Europe, and their offers are crap and they're just horrible, but they really like and respect me. And they're like, Mr. Crusadat, I learned so much from you. I'm like, I don't feel good about that. I'd rather you didn't. Like,
no, the worst one in event. So like, it's funny because, my kid, we've done events, thousands of people, where we've had events and, all over the world, Singapore, all these places. Yep. And, my staff's like, oh my God, you're famous. I'm like, look, I am not famous. I'm only famous in small groups at certain events. And that's what they think it because, think about when we land, we go to the hotel, and in the hotel, I don't usually leave because I don't like to, travel around. I go to my room. And so, they're like, but you're so famous. I'm like, no, I'm not, only in this damn hotel. Like if I go out in the street, nobody knows who the hell I am. But the worst part for me isn't those people, but I do know what you're talking about, where you sit there, you're like, oh my God, I just can't believe people would even invest with this person. But there's the other one where when the people in the audience, follow you to the bathroom. Now that is the worst one. And I remember being in London one time, and I was speaking for the World Internet Summit, and I remember people just following me. No, first question I remember, it was the first time I went to London, and somebody's like, "Hey, you want to go outside and have a fag?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking about?" I didn't know what they meant, first of all. So then I go to I was like, "No, I got to use the bathroom. That's where I'm going to go to the bathroom." So they follow me to the bathroom. They're standing behind me while I'm taking a pee. And I remember saying, while they're asking me questions, and I at the time, it kind of made sense, because my line used to be, I turn around, "Hey, you know, if you're going to stand here and ask a question, might as well hold it, you know?" Like, but now, like, if I said it, it might go a little wrong. But back then, I think I was kind of, it would have went fine.
You got to make the jokes. It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that was like the worst. It's like, just leave me alone when I go to the bathroom. And I used to have to stay up and say, like, seriously, when I go to the bathroom, can you please just I'll wait for me outside. I'll be back. You know, like,
how weird is it that you have to do that, right? How weird is it that like I remember back in the day, I'd have issues where I'd go to like TNC or something, and I'm at the bar, and then like somebody would like corner me against the bar, right? And they're just like very intensely asking questions, and I'm trying to be polite. And eventually, one of my staff would have to come over and be like, "Chris, we need you right now. Can you please come over?" Like I would just kind of give a little bit of a signal, and they'd come over and be like, "Yeah, we're so sorry. He has to go," right? And like rescue me from the entire thing. It is weird, that fame thing though, the idea of like being fame. You know, I know Eben used to talk about this a little bit. Like you go to an event, you're a big deal. You come back home and you go to the supermarket and you're nobody. Or actually, my buddy Scott Rewick and I were chatting about like you go to an event and you're a big deal, and then you come home and your spouse hates you and doesn't respect you, and it's just like such a, depending on how your marriage is, but my previous marriage and his previous marriage were that kind of way, and how it messes with you, right? Because like you're feeling like you've got this high status and you've accomplished something with your life, and then you're just nobody as soon as you go home. You just got to take the trash out. It's a very strange experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, it's interesting. One thing I will tell you for anybody listening, I mean, luckily for me, I started off as a promoter. So I promoted a lot of people. I was behind the scenes, and I helped people become famous. Like I was a guy behind the scenes, built a lot of marketing systems.
You were doing a lot of operation stuff back then?
My nickname when I first got started was called the Powerful Promoter. And so
what was something
Powerful Promoter.
Oh,
I used to put 50 to 100 people in the room in 3 days, like that. You know, that's where Joe Sugarman and Ted Nicholas and Mark Joyner and I all became friends, because they're like, this was early. Like we're talking 2099. And, you know, I went to an event.
Oh, wow. So you were like 19 or something like that.
20, yeah. In my 20s.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
I graduated college in 99. I'm a couple of years ahead of you. So yeah.
So, but, you know, but there, you know, I was like, they're like, how are you putting 50, 100 people in the room in 3 days? And I'm like, I just sent an email, you know, like, but I was, you know, sending a short email to a page, which we're doing today. But back then, if you think about it, like in 90s, you know, when I first started email marketing, it was, we took a sales letter, we emailed the sales letter out, they clicked on the link and they went to the order form. It wasn't send a short email to a page and to that.
Here's everything. Yeah.
Yeah. It was, because a lot of people, and especially in direct response, and I was telling people, I was like, you know, like literally this came from mail order, right? Yeah. You know, I mean, the mail order guys got in, they figured out I send mail. I just, you know, the sales letter's in the mail, I'll send a sales letter in the mail. And that's where I learned. Yep. So, you know, like that was where I got my first start. And that's, so instead of doing that, because for me, instead of, you know, sending the sales letter, we started noticing we weren't getting deliverability. So then we started doing the short emails, and everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. I never thought of doing that. And then just putting the page on the internet. Now, I mean, I can't say I'm the first to do it, but we were early on.
I remember talking to John Carlton about this, actually, about like back in the day when it was first becoming a thing, and how, you know, that old school kind of marketing people, they were like, how the hell do we do the internet? And then somebody was just like, let's just try taking the exact same letter we send in the mail and putting it on the internet and seeing what happens. But it's so weird how like, you know, people ask me all the time, they're like, well, Chris, how is copywriting different today than it was 60 years ago or 50 years ago or 10 years ago? I'm like, it's really not. I mean, the language is a little bit different. I focus on emotions and storytelling a little bit more, but sales is sales. But it's really interesting how people get this idea in their head that it's like, oh, that works as a physical thing, but there's no way it would work on the internet, or there's no way you could make a sales letter into a video and have it work. I'm like, the principles and the persuasion are exactly the same all the time. Yeah.
I mean, and I say that, like, I'm not like, interesting enough, I don't see myself as a big copywriter. Actually, behind me in these boxes, you know, that it's all copy. And like, if I open up a book after book after book after book, it's going to be copyright. That's where I focus my energy to learning.
But it's not about the writing; it's about the thinking. I feel like so much.
Yeah, I mean, I like, for me, I focus in 3 areas. Oh shoot, it's right here. So here, I just bought this office. So I bought this building, and so I haven't put this up, but like right here. See, I 50, I put 50% offer list, 30% offer,
Yep.
20% copy, but I focus my energy on this 20. Like this is where I buy everything in this area is on the 20. If it has to copywriting, I bought Be Direct yesterday or the other day.
I don't know that one.
I saw that by I was just I can't think of his name, but it's an amazing book. They call him I study direct response copy. I study mail order copy. And in fact, I was in Dan Kennedy's mastermind, Ted Nicholas's mastermind. Ted and I became really close. And in fact, when Ted passed away, his family came to me. I bought all his inventory. I own all Ted Nicholas's. I bought a whole warehouse during COVID, and I didn't know what I got my hands on. I really didn't. I just wanted to help out the family. And I purchased everything in the warehouse unseen. I couldn't even get in because I couldn't fly over there, and all the rules were crazy. So I just bought this warehouse, and I had the guy go around after I bought it and showing me everything, open up boxes. And so I got all of technical stuff. And so, Joe, like I kind of came from that line. So I've always studied like, the older school marketers, but it's interesting you say, because I was speaking at an event in Poland. It was me. You talked about Walker. Me, Walker, Halbert, son, not Gary, Bond, but Gary's son. Halbert Bond, Bond Halbert, and all of us. And like we were having so they're all going up there, and people had to make offers, and so I told them all in the back of the room, like, guys, watch this, because I was like, I said I'm about to crush it, and they're like, what? Because I was watching, like, man, there's no money, or nobody's buying. So I started asking questions. I'm like, tell me, and I was trying to figure out the crowd and who we're talking to. And so I went up there, man. I sold 98% of the room, and I even had like everybody. I will tell you, everybody in the room bought except for Walker, all the other people. And so we were walking, and I was with Caleb Adao. He was there.
Oh yeah, love that guy.
And I said to Caleb, Caleb and I were talking. He goes,
whenever I see Caleb, I make him do a backflip. Like every time
he jumped. Well, he did jump over a table to get my offer.
Makes no sense.
So he helped in, but we were talking about, he goes, Matt, how did you do this? And I said, well, listen, I said, look, everybody here is a copywriter. And I said, unfortunately, I strongly believe, I've been around copywriters all my life.
Yep.
Ted, a lot of these guys, Ted and I, we talked all the time. Yep. Unfortunately with Glazer, he's not doing as well, but they're like my dads. They're like all my mentors are dying off. It sucks, but I mean, but I say it is like, so we were there, and he said to me, he goes, Matt, how did you do so well on stage? And I said, well, listen, I said, here's what I've observed over the years. I said, what I've observed over the years, there's nothing really different between a sales letter, a VSL, and a seminar presentation. I said, the only thing different is how much content we're giving. Yep. And I said, really, in the end of the day, if you look at it, it's pretty much all structure. There's a lot of the structure, we got to get their attention at the beginning, then hold on, there's all this stuff. And I said, and he goes, I never thought of that way. I said, yeah, I said, that's one of the reasons that connection of understanding that, I have taken sales letter presentations and literally turned them into VSLs. I did a webinar the other day, was actually a sales letter. I just took the words, put it in a PowerPoint.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, it works. And
it's interesting that he wouldn't know that, because I mean, my background, structure is everything, right? Like structure is always everything. Persuasion structure is everything. Writing structure is everything. And when I speak or whatnot, it's just because I've done so much copy, I just automatically tend to structure my speeches that way if I'm actually trying to make a pitch or something. It's weird that somebody would think it'd be different in the.
But I see it with copywriters. Like, I've been the guy, I used to be the bitch. I guess we're allowed to cuss. So I used to
you can fucking swear all you want. You can say whatever.
All right, good. Yeah. Well, I'm holding back. So
no, dude. This is like people. I am known for being a very foul-mouthed person.
Okay, good. So am I. But not really to the world. So go for my kids tell me I say the wrong words all the time. In front of their friends, like, Matt, Dad, stop. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I really, whatever. So, but I will say that what's fascinating, what I've seen over the years, is a lot of times, and you are different. I watched you, but a lot of copywriters don't get that distinction, or they get that idea, the concept where it's just universal, right? And in most of the time, copywriters that have been at events that I put on, I saw a lot of people when you asked, like, country club. I used to do events at the country club every week.
That would do. Yeah, I posted on Facebook saying, what do people want to ask Matt? And the question, I don't think there was a single actually serious question. It was just like Harry making a joke and like all these other people we both know making jokes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I will say that what I've noticed over the years, because I was the guy in the back, right? I mean,
Yeah.
they nicknamed me the power promoter because I was putting people in the room really quick.
Yep.
People would call me up, come to town. I would help them fill their events. And then I was the guy in the back. And for me, how I really learned copy was from closers, from top closers. So I'm the guy in the back, I'm taking order forms, and I'm running the event. I put up the money to put on the event. I filled the room, and I just had other people speaking. It wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would literally sit in the back of the room when I first started, and I would take notes on all the speakers that I had. And I always bring in, somebody that can make money, and have a headliner, somebody's going to draw the people in, and then people that are going to make the money. But so I would write down notes on each person. And then, so what ended up happening for me, and this really gave me my biggest lift in the whole market. It really got me more famous around in the group, was I would take notes. And as I would take notes on these people, I would go and I ran the orders. So here's the top seller, and I would go remove everybody else's notes and only keep the top seller notes. And then I would do it again and do it again and do it again. Yeah. And so then one day I was invited to a seminar to speak because I was building lists back then. I was really big in building lists, and everybody's hearing about it.
Because you were known for I know someone would have like a 2 million person list or something like that.
I used to have that. Yeah. It was like I controlled the world. It was amazing.
Yeah,
a whole country. Yeah. Yeah. I told my wife, I was like, we own a country. Yeah. But I will say that went to an event one time, and it was like I remember coming in, and I knew. So when I moved, because you heard, I moved around a little bit. When I moved, my dad was one of those, tough, football star, tough guy. Yeah. And he said to me, because Matt, if the first thing you do when you go to school is find the toughest kid and knock him out. I'm like, okay.
It's like going to jail. Yeah.
I didn't really do that, but the toughest guy did find me, and I did knock him down the hill. And therefore, after that, nobody
messes with you. Yeah.
And so that concept of what he said, I actually used at that event. I found the biggest speaker. I was at the event, and the one that everybody was like, oh, this guy's going to be the best closer. He's the one that he was teaching people how to sell, and all the people there at the event. And I said, I came here and I remember being in the speaker meeting, and I looked at him in the eyes in the speaker meeting with all the speakers. I'm like, they're like, who are you and why are you here? I said, I came here for one reason, to beat him in sales. And everybody's like, what? Like they all thought I was crazy. And I knew I had to do it. And if I did it, that was going to make the greatest impact. And after that, I swear to God, I got phone calls. Everybody wanted me to speak at things. And I kind of, I never was the big draw, but I became, the one they wanted to come in to close, because that's the one paid the bills for the end of the day. And so using those techniques, really for me with even copy, like applying them in copy, applying on webinars, applying on, webinars, well, back then it was teleseminars. Yeah. That's when really things started taking off, because teleseminar, I made, my first million doing teleseminars, and then that was years ago.
I love that. I love the feedback of it, right? Like I love the, I'm so used to writing VSLs and sales letters and things where you do it once and it goes off and it just kind of does the work. But when I do webinars and stuff or speak in person, I just love being able to feel the crowd, right? And get a feel for like, okay, are they laughing at the right time? Am I getting the right level of thing? I feel the most alive when I'm on stage and kind of doing that, and everything is just like being like, I don't know, it just makes me happy in a way that you can't do with the whole one-sided sales thing that comes with copywriting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, honestly, I do miss getting on stage. And for me, whenever I do stage presentation, I usually write the presentation, usually run 1 or 2 webinars before I do it, to get the feedback so I can overcome any objection, is buying objection typically, and then rework it back in my presentation before I go to a seminar. And then I run the seminar. So I never want to, I tell people, I was like, you're not my guinea pig. My list and my group is my guinea pig. Yeah. And then I go there and do it, especially on new stuff. So that, but it is fascinating, especially when you, for me, what's more fascinating to me is like, it's when you see the crowd like move, and the first move and the second move and the third move. And then, the greatest one I love is when you're standing on a chair. I mean, you have to, because it's so crowded back there. And like you stand in a chair, and then people literally throw credit cards at you. Like at first time I got hit in the head with a credit card, it really pissed me off. I was like, what the hell? And then I'm like, wait, they're throwing money at me, and I just told everybody, I was like, seriously, if you want in, just throw a credit card, hit me in the head. It's fine. Get it to me.
Your name is on it. It's fine. We'll get it.
I love it. Just give it to me. So
that's awesome. What was the first thing? What was the first product that you created and sold?
Butts and Seats.
Butts and Seats. Good name.
I used to own buttsandseats.com. I created an event called How to Put Butts in Seats. and on buttsandseats.com. Actually, so before Butts and Seats, I made my first million online I was selling cassette tapes, VHS tapes, for the wealth
old
building
school
world.
physical product, cost of
Oh
goods.
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, you could go back the Wayback Machine and see some crazy stuff that I was selling. But you know, like cassettes, VHS tapes for Kiyosaki when he got started. I was selling games for Kiyosaki. I was selling, you know, cassettes.
He had a board game, right? He had the Rich Dad Poor Dad board game going on.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I used to be the number 2. I think I was there was only a few distributors at the time, and I was one of them. And so I was like, I was using them to fill. That's how I was putting on events. I was actually using the game to get people in. Everybody's all crazy about it early on, to make that happen. And then I'd bring in speakers on real estate or speakers in, well, I mean, my first list I built was called Millionaire Minutes. And because I wasn't a millionaire, so I just didn't, and I was an interviewer. I interviewed people. I was a reporter with minutes I had with millionaires. And then that's how I made my first million. And then from that, it broke off. People started coming to me. So people are showing up at my events. This is my big move was, this is what happened. So I'm putting on this one cash flow or this event. We got 100 people in the room. I mean, I literally started promoting on Wednesday, and on Saturday, there's 100 and something people in the room.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
And I'm looking around the room and I see t-shirts of Action International. I think that's the name back then. There was other companies, the marketing companies, and like they had these shirts that said marketing or something marketing, Action International Marketing. And then another one was this marketing. And I'm like, and I looked around the room, and before we got started, I said, folks, I've got to ask you a question before we get started today. I noticed all these marketing shirts, and I said, can you please raise your hand here if you came here to learn what we're about to teach you? And half the room's hands went up. And I said, well, listen, let me ask another question. How many people, I said, I'm just guessing, how many people came through the process just to figure out how I was putting people in the boot camp?
Yeah.
And the other half of the room raised a hand. And I'm like, so after this is all over, let me think about this for a minute. And after this is all over, whoever's interested in learning how I put on seminars, meet me in the back of the room. And so I went in the back of the room, I collected everybody's credit card, and I made up my first thing was called How to Put Butts in Seats.
That's
and so
awesome.
And then I did that. And then at that event, which got crazy. So at that event, we sold out. Like I literally did a teaser email. I said, hey, I'm going to let you know I'm still coming up with it, and how to write the sales letter. Actually, Michael Fortin.
Michael. Yeah.
I wrote the sales letter. That was my first sales letter that I pretty much really wrote. I had a lot. I was able to gank stuff from the people I was promoting from their pages and be able to create a page the first time. This is the first time I ever wrote a sales letter for myself. And I wrote the sales letter, but I had Michael do a review, and I think I can't remember what it was, but he did a review and a critique, and then he sent it back to me, and then that's what I used. And funny thing is, I still use that copy today. Like I just used it the other day. I reskinned it, right?
Absolutely. I use a lot of my old stuff. I rip people rip me off all the time. I figure I should rip myself off sometimes.
Yeah, I do it. I deja vu it, right? I mean, that's what Dan and I were talking about at an event a couple of years ago. Like we deja vu stuff. Like that's allows us to be successful. But so I did that, and so that event sold out. And so while we're there, we're at lunch, and everybody I said one of the deals was you'll have lunch with me or whatever, and you can ask me the questions. So at the lunch, everybody's asking me, well, this is great, Matt, but we don't have a list. And I'm like, huh. So I came back, I left it out of the room. I went back to it was doing it at a learning annex kind of place. And I went back in, talked to the owner, and I said, listen, I said, these people want to come back. They really want me to teach them how to build a list. Can I have it open? He said, well, I'll get you in 2 weeks from now. So it was great. So I went in front of the room, first time I really pitched for myself. And I was like, hey, everybody at lunch was saying they want this. I talked to the owner. I got order forms. If you're interested in learning how to build a list, build it up. And everybody ran to the front, filled it out, and came to the next event. And that actually started me teaching. So list building. And so
I love that meta. You were talking before about how like people came, half the people wanted to learn the marketing stuff you were saying, and the other half wanted to learn how to put butts in seats. It reminds me of I did a launch back in December of my Pig Method course, and we did like 700 grand, no list, no email list, no affiliates, 3 weeks before Christmas, like blah, blah, blah. We did like 700 grand on it. But while I was doing the launch in my Facebook group, people were like, can your next product be teaching us how you're doing the launch that you're doing right now? Right. And I love how meta that is when you're selling, because I've been selling into the relationship advice niche for so long, but like in the marketing niche, it's like, oh wait, when I use weird magical marketing techniques on you, you get happy about it and just want to learn more. It's like self-reinforcing proof in a way. They're like, you got me to buy, so therefore you know what you're doing, so you can sell me more stuff. I just think it's super cool.
No, it is amazing. And that really kind of got me in it. But what's interesting is too, is so I mean, this is what most people don't realize. Like it all started from the core of wealth building. And
Yeah.
then, I did that event and then everybody wanted to learn the butts and seats side.
Yep.
And then they wanted to learn the list building side. And then some people came to me that I was putting on events with, because I was still doing the events.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was always taught, teach from the footsteps you walk through. That was like what I was taught early. And
Mm-hmm.
so I got hit up by a tax guy and he's like, man, will you build me a business? It's like, you're the front, you're the face. I'm not going to but I said, I'll build the marketing systems. We did. And, we got rose that to like 20 million one year.
Nice.
And then we did the tax. Then I got in the tax, got real estate, stocks. So I was picking these different people that had amazing products, amazing things. And I was just the guy behind the scenes, building their list, pretty much bringing in sales floors. Cause I was really good at that. Yep. Brought in this free CD back then, brought in the free CD strategy, pulled that in and just basically duplicate the model in different markets. Mm-hmm. And then that's when, really things got really big for me because, I was just teaching from what I was doing in the stock and the tax and the real estate, markets. The stock didn't really work really well just because my partner was horrible, but the other ones went pretty decent. We were able to take companies and just literally I felt like we could just duplicate it. They all came from the same core. And then I ended up had to buying a plane because they were in different locations. And we used to fly back and forth. I mean, I had a pilot. We fly back and forth to the companies, but I would learn from the companies and then bring that back to the other company. And we were just like learning from each company. One was down in Florida, one was North Carolina, one was in Atlanta. We just learned from each other and then we just all grew. And
it reminds me just like, how Sugarman or Alex Mendosian or those guys would do it. Just like take something that you learn from one place and just bring it over to a totally different niche and just learn cross pollinate your ideas that way instead of just doing exactly what everybody else is doing all the time. What are you working on now? Like what excites you these days? You've been doing this for so long, you've made some money. Like what keeps you going at this point? Is it because you just have fun with it? Because you have financial goals? Because or what?
It's a good question. I mean, I've acquired these. I saw some people say, move somebody on that thing, talk about me moving my land. I didn't really move my land. I do have a lake house and been buying. I enjoy, so I own a bunch of land, which I saw somebody say, we planted over 10,000 black walnuts out there.
Wow.
My big thing is like, I just picked up 21 properties the other day. I was looking at 3,
21, that's a lot of properties. Yeah.
In the day is pretty, it's my biggest, haul. But like I've been buying up town. I just bought this building, buying, different things, strategically. Like for me, it's, I don't know, like I enjoy, I guess it's legacy because like, I'm never going to see those 10,000 black walnuts.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I'm never going to see them, but my children will.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think it's more legacy for me. I think it's like, and even we're talking to the kids because, we got this trust and I'm like, hey, I'm going to move this over to the trust and just let here are the rules, here's who I want to have this, we're just going over stuff. And so it's fun. I mean, like it's very cool for me to be able to drive 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes and basically see things that I own. Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's kind of unique but it kind of hurts the kids a little bit in school just because like your daddy's rich, but I don't want them to know that. And I didn't grow up that way. So like I make my daughter work, my kids don't get, I don't.
Are you pretty quiet about, do people in your regular life kind of know that how well you've done, or do you keep that relatively quiet?
It depends who it is. Like my brother gets it because my brother used to work for me.
Sure.
For a little while. He's the only one I ever trusted sending emails for to my list.
Yeah.
And he's an accountant, so he didn't have any emotion. He just kept on saying, look at the numbers, Matt. Kept on sending the same email for like a week because it just worked. And, I'm like, dude, like people are going to hate me. He's like, I don't care. The numbers, look at the numbers. So my brother's, good. But anyway, he, my dad, my family, and I think my father-in-law, mother-in-law know just because they know. I mean, like we have a rental he's been over and helped with, but we don't really discuss it.
People in my life don't generally know until they come over the house, right? Because like I drive a Subaru, I barely drive at all. I don't dress. And again, it's not like a mansion or anything, but it's a 3,500 square foot house in Seattle, which is not exactly cheap.
Yeah.
And people will come by and they'll be like, "What the fuck do you do?" Like that's the standard
that's
response.
The standard thing.
Are you a
It's
drunk?
actually interesting because like my real estate, like the agent that I use or my attorney or the bank. So the bank was the biggest one. The manager came over to me when we kind of moved, and then I went to this bank, and then I've been using the bank for a lot of stuff. Because one of my rules that I do whenever we're acquiring real estate is it's more or less build a relationship with a smaller town, with a smaller bank, and the bank manager. So I'll go in. A lot of times I'll do a loan, then I pay off the loan, and just keep on doing that a couple of times so that I have this
get a relationship,
great relationship with the bank. But the banker, the manager of the bank, and I think it might have been part owner, he came over and he goes, the same word, "Who the fuck are you?" And I'm like, what do you do? And I'm like, dude, I can't explain it. Like I just have to tell people, like, now I'm like, I'm an author. Like, and then they get
That's
it.
a good way of doing it. Yeah.
But other than that, any word I say, like I send emails, "Oh, you're a spammer." And I was like, what? No. Like, or you know, like I do something on eBay. So what do you sell? You know, like, and then can you teach me? Like, no, I'm an author. Like, and then everybody just leaves me alone. They're like, oh, he's just a creative because I have 20 of these t-shirts. I have 20 of these shorts. I have
Just wearing the same thing all
hat.
the time, right? Yeah.
You know, like I spend, you know, I guess, you know, think about it, like that's a big thing. But the other thing I was thinking about is, for me, I do love marketing. I love marketing. I love seeing people's responses. But what I love more than that, and I was up in, it was about 4 years ago. It was pre-COVID. So whenever, I don't know, I lost time.
Like 3 years ago from, I think it's,
yeah. I was up in New York.
I barely remember the last several years, honestly.
I know, either can I. But, you know, I was up in New York, and I would, the guy, the founder, one of the founders of Priceline, and he went up there. He's a big direct mail guy. The guy that started the football.
Oh, yeah.
The football. I was in his office, and you know, I remember he's like, man, I'd really like, and I was talking to his direct mail team, and it was so cool, like meeting them. And so so in his floor was the top floor of his thing. They looked down on Trump, and then his office, he's like, I look down on Trump. He like makes a big deal of it. Nice, and then he used to put a video down there so everybody could see him before he went to the office. And then it went into the presidency. But then underneath the next floor was all these incubators he had. So I, in fact, what I love more than marketing, which is marketing, is split testing and testing. I test.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm a fiend. I like, look, let me show you how fiend.
I remember seeing you speak once, and the number one thing I pulled from your speech was test radicals, is what you said. Test.
Oh yeah. Look at this. These are just, this is 8, 1, 2, 3, 8 on each page here of tests that I ran. I ran out of paper.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I've done probably every day I test. Every day I'm testing something. Every day I'm seeing, you know, a lot of times it's like jokingly, sometimes my people like, how are you so clairvoyant? I'm not, just look at my data, right?
Just testing everything. Yeah.
It's like, I see the data, I rely on the data. I love, like, so the reason I bring that up is being New York. So we were talking, he's like, oh man, I'd love to hire you. I said, look, dude, I said, honestly, if I could work up here, if I could fly up here once a week, sit in your office, I can beat anything that you got. I will, you know, cause he's running all these, his company does all this crazy stuff. I said, I will crush anything that you guys have. If you just stick me in a bubble for a day, I'll fly up, put me in it for a day, pay me $1 million a year. Yep. I said, I would actually be happy. I said, I can't even believe I said that. But the truth is, I would be happier than happy sitting in a room testing. Like, I love it. Like I play games with myself. Like, you know, I have to make it a game. So like, it's a game. Like, is this going to win? So the first one, A is always, you know, the first one I do is always what I believe is going to win. And I'm never right. Yeah. I mean, well, you know, 80%.
Sometimes right. But people ask me that sometimes too. They're like, which one of these do you think is going to win? I'm like, I think probably this one, but I don't know. Like, I've been doing it a long time, but
I get my ass kicked a lot. Like, I mean, but I love it. Like, okay, so even this one, so I won, I lost, I won, I lost, I won, I lost.
That's awesome. You know?
Like, I mean, now, but the thing is, and this is what I tell a lot of people that get to know me, they're like, but Matt, what's the best thing to do? Do something. Like, something is better than nothing. Like, if I didn't do anything, there's opportunity cost there. Yeah. Right. But I said, I just keep on doing that and perfect it, which you did say, I always start off with radicals. I'm testing radicals first, because radicals are going to give me radically different variations. Yep. I test radically different sales letters. Like, so I used to hire one sales letter, copywriter. Yeah. So one copywriter, different copywriter. I would hire a different graphic designer, never let them see anything. And then they come up with their own ideas and test, like, very radical. Now I kind of just I reskin things or deja vu things.
I think we all get a little lazy in our old age sometimes. You know, I can't hustle the way I could when I was 30. You know, I just don't really want to.
Yeah. But, you know, like, I know what's going to have the greatest impact, like the deck, you know, like, I know I got to change the deck. I know it's going to be a different offer. I know, you know, like, the decks are different than they used to be. You know, I mean, now, you know, I've got, you know, a video up there a little bit, and I got the headline and subhead, and then, you know, usually a call to action underneath it or a button, you know, like I wasn't doing that years ago. I mean, before it was just headline, no video.
Yep.
So now I'm, you know, transitioning a little bit more in that. And sometimes, you know, and then, you know, what I think is probably the most fascinating, and probably your people don't think this, but what I think is most fascinating, especially with newer people, is how they let their own shit get in the way
Absolutely.
of their decisions on what to do. Like, so I still run VSLs without, you know, like I have one right now. I think you got to wait 45 minutes to see the button drop. Like, you know, and they're like, I hate that. I'm never going to do that. I'm like, well, then you're not going to.
My favorite story about that kind of thing is years ago for my text your wife into bed offer, like the first offer I did my own, right? And I got an email from somebody in customer service that was like, your goddamn motherfucking long ass video ... is brilliant, and I bought the product, but I really wish the video wasn't so long. And I'm like, yeah, but you bought the damn product. Like, right. That's the point. It's that long because that's how long it takes me to get you to take your damn wallet out and give it to me.
Right. I mean, oh my God. Like, yeah, it is fascinating. It is the most fascinating, you know, you know, we get caught up in too. Like, one thing is I don't get emotionally attached to my ideas or my copy. Yeah. I get emotionally in that. I do get emotionally attached to the numbers. Like, I've got to hit the number, you know, whatever, you know, on that. But, you know, it is fascinating. Like, you know, I jokingly tell people, I was like, I don't listen to pie holes. I listen to wallets. Like, people vote with their wallet. They don't vote with their pie holes. Like, I've had so many people tell me, this is what I wish you would do. I do it. And then
I love that. I love that. Yeah. My favorite too, the Michael Fiore stuff. I used to get people that would say, dear Michael Fiore, if you really cared about helping people, you would give your stuff away for free. And I'm like, if I was giving it away for free, I wouldn't make it. I wouldn't create it. That's not how it works. But that idea that people have of, I don't know, the entitlement sometimes, especially when it's lower ticket stuff. Actually, have you experienced this? The less somebody pays you, the more entitled they are and the more demanding they are.
Dude, I was in that one group I think we're both part of. And so somebody said, hey, you know, I really think that the higher ticket people would be more entitled or something like that. I'm like, dude, I said, lower ticket people, they want your finger, they want your fingernail, they want your freaking beard, they want your arm, your leg, your nose.
I paid you $50. I own you now.
Yeah. I said, but a big ticket person, they just want an amazing fucking experience. You know, like they want to be mind fucked is really, that's one thing I've learned. If you can give somebody the greatest mind fuck, you know, I mean, people will pay a lot for that. Like, meaning, you know, like you share something that they never fucking thought of.
That is the name of the episode, by the way. I'm always looking for the name of the episode when I'm talking to somebody, and this is going to be if you can give somebody the greatest mind fuck.
Well, it's true. Yeah, it is true. Like, I literally tell, even when I do my big ticket things, I'm like, guys, look, I said, you know, you and I, and you know, marketers, right? They've been around for a while, or even, you know, making a lot of money in the business. We go into something. Look, I'm looking for 1 or 2 good nuggets. You know, if I get more than that, you know, it's gonna be great. But it's that mind fuck, right? We're like, holy shit, you different. Just fucking blew my mind. You know, that is, you know, I think for me is really it's that dope. It gives them the biggest dopamine, you know, adrenaline push in the world. You know, and they're like, fuck, if they say that, like, I just got my money with this one thing, and then I can over deliver with more. You know, it's like, what was it? Oh, you even brought it up with the whole free thing. Like, I talked about Mansa Musa. I don't know if you know the story of Mansa Musa. He was actually one of the richest men, would be today the richest man in the world. Nobody really talks about it. The Black Panther was created off his idea. Ultimately rich. And Mansa Musa, if you actually go study him, you will find that Mansa Musa, like,
Mansa Musa, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's from, I don't know, 1200, you know. BC, like a long time ago.
Long time ago. Yeah.
And he was like the richest man in the world, still would be. Like, he would trump everybody, Elon even now. And from what, you know, records show. And so, and nobody talks about him, but what he did was, and this is the craziest thing. What he did was he went from, you know, he went on this journey, like a pilgrimage, and I can't remember, he went from all the way to another place, and he stopped like in Cairo, and he stopped in all these places, and everywhere he stopped, he started giving away gold. And then, you know, basically what ended up happening was all the places that he stopped and he gave away gold went into like a recession, times got bad, times got horrible. And what he realized is, after he went through, like, the cities he went to all just started having money problems.
Mm.
And so it's kind of the same idea with this free information thing. Like, so then he finds out, he's like, you know what, I just kind of screwed up. And, he was trying to do it to be nice, but he realized he screwed up the economies of all these cities on his trip and on his pilgrimage. So on his way back, he came back and
took it all away.
So many technically, I'm just kind of, the story could be off a little bit, but he went back and he just started borrowing the gold. So he devalued gold, right? Because he did that. So he started borrowing it back and he got them back to, where they had, but it was like one of the greatest things, like we're giving away free information. If you think about it from this perspective, there's so many, today's age. So we've been around this business for a long time.
Quite a while.
In fact, in a long time. And I do remember a client CC'd us together back in 2004,
way back in
2003, forever ago. They're working on copy for you, or you're working on their copy or something. But anyway, so we've been in this business for a long time. So think about it. YouTube came out. There's, Facebook's now out. I mean,
it's a whole different thing.
All these places to get free information. So if free information made people rich, then why aren't there so many people rich?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. But it is fascinating. Like, and even to that conversation. So like big mind fuck, I tell, we're not, most of you guys just want to be a mind fuck too, but you even said it is like so you just said it. I'm not going to give out information if it's not going to lead to a sale. Yep. I'm not going to give information that's not going to lead to a sale. There's no way possible. No anybody's going to give out information. We're not going to bring up this idea if it's not going to lead to sale. And
everything I put out for free is basically to bond people towards me or to make them feel like I know what I'm doing or whatever else, so they eventually want to buy.
Yeah, right. Because the end result, it's planting money seeds in their mind.
This podcast is that exactly. I enjoy doing it. It's a lot of fun. It's fun to hang out with people, get to know people. But also, I know people who, if people listen to enough of this, they will eventually want to buy something from me. And it's been true so far. People tell me all the time when they buy something, they're like, "Hey, I watched the podcast for a long time." It's great.
I love it.
Yeah. What do you think of, one thing I was noticing, I was in Costa Rica for the ClickBank event a few weeks ago. And like you said, you and I, we've been around this a long time. I've been in this business for 17 or 18 years. You've been in it even longer than that. What I'm seeing now, I'm 44, you're 42. Some of my friends are 50, is I'm seeing the guys that we came up with starting to pay for not taking care of themselves, right? I'm starting to see the guy, Andy Jenkins passed away a year or two ago or something like that. And I'm just starting to see our generation of people, become the old guys in a way, but also like watching reality catch up to folks. Like, it isn't just about making money. Like, you can make all the money you want, but you can still die at 50 from a heart attack if you're not taking care of yourself. I don't know, what is it like to age in the business for you, I guess?
So that, dude, we must be on the same wavelength, because I just wrote somebody that, one of my merchant account guy that I've had for, I don't know, since 2003,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Died. One of the guys that taught me this cool little strategy on Warrior Plus died, found out he died. Like, I'm finding out, like, I told my wife, I said, what is going on? Like, Ted died, Ted Nicholas died, Joe Strickman died.
At least they made it to a good age though,
Yeah. And you got, a lot of people that I used to look up to and became friends with, right? They're gone. And even people in the industry that are our age are going.
Yep.
And
that's what freaks me out. That's what freaks me out, man, is just being like, my dad died at 47. So my brother just turned 47 this year. And that was a tough day for him. Just like, I'm sure it will be the same for me.
Oh, I did a whole, that is interesting. Remember I was telling you about my kids, and so like, I'm like, we got to rework our wills. We're a totally different place than we were. I was like, we need to make sure these kids aren't getting hit in probate, because I will tell you, that was the biggest issue with, shouldn't bring Ted, he taught stuff, but
he didn't necessarily have things
all over the place, and it became very hard because they're probating in different parts of the world. So, so basically, like, I don't want my kids, and I'm seeing this, I don't want my kids to be in the situation that I'm seeing other people's kids are being in because they didn't take care of stuff. So I've been very adamant about, like, guys, look, like all my mentors are dying off. Almost all of them. Really.
I'm waiting. When guys like David Deutsch and Carlton and those guys start to go, it's going to be rough, man. Those guys have been teaching me for almost 20 years now. They've become good friends of mine. I look up to them, but it's just harrowing kind of watching. Time catches up to us all. It doesn't matter how much money you have. Time catches up.
I told my wife, this was after last week. So when Ted died, I started reading all his books. I've got one book that, it's kind of out there, but it's not. Like, there's one thing I asked his son, it was like, I never knew about this book. Like, I own everything your dad has, but I never knew about this book. And they had tons of it. He goes, my dad, never really promoted the book. I said, I was like, this is like the gold. I said, how'd your dad come up with this? And when I interviewed him about it, because I was writing the sales letter, and he said, no, my dad took all his best work put in this book. And I'm like, and he never sold it? Like, he goes, well, and I said, well, now I got my hands on all this stuff, but I say that because I read the book. I read everything again, and I'm reading it. And I'm like, the one thing Ted preached that I never did was health. He said, in health, health, health. And I told my wife, I said, I've listened to almost every lesson he gave me, except for this one.
Yep.
The health, let my health go. So really, seriously, I told my wife, I said, all these years, I've been a meat eater. So now I'm a flexitarian, literally. So I'm actually a vegetarian all week. And I've lost 25 pounds in the last
damn good dude.
3 weeks.
That's awesome.
Going from, and I'm not saying I'm giving up meat because I love meat, but I basically really eat meat on the weekends. And actually, so I started studying for me. So I started getting this whole thing. I started studying the Lords of England, like a long time ago, the Vikings. Wow. Yeah. I love war, and I love studying religion.
I watch way too many YouTube videos about war. For me, it's war, cults, serial killers. Like, this is the stuff that I get interested in. My mom and I were chatting about that today. We were talking about we're not going to get into politics, but we're talking about how people are going to start looking at people's like search histories for abortions and things like that. And my mom was like, I look up all sorts of crazy shit that I'm not actually like. I look at serial killers. I'm like, Mom, I know. It's like, it doesn't mean you actually need any of that stuff. You're just a curious person. And again, that for me, the serial killers, cults, things like that. It's all psychology. It's all persuasion.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. How do people control the masses? How do do that? Exactly. So I came across that, like, somebody, but I came across this History Channel thing about these Vikings. Yep. Like, and everybody thinks they ate meat all the time. They only did it. They were actually called flexitarians, where they ate vegetables pretty much all the time, except for when they had a big gathering. And I'm like, that's when they ate meat. And I'm like,
it was called a thing, wasn't it? Like, I believe the Vikings actually called it a thing. That was the name for their big gathering, their big party is the.
And then people would bring their food, bring it and supply it. So I was like, you know what? Why don't we try that out? Like, And so then all of a sudden I dropped 25. I mean, my goal, I even told my parents, I was like, I want to drop 100 pounds. I am honestly, like with you, I'm worried. Like, I've sacrificed. I know I have sacrificed. Like, if you think about it, when I started, I was boxing. I was boxing shape. I was fighting 170. I wrestled 171. I fought 165.
Oh wow, jeez.
So then I get into this world, and I sat on the computer behind there, and I put on a lot of weight. And it's like I told my wife, I was like, no, I'm dropping. I gotta go because I got to be around for this stuff to enjoy everything and all the sacrifice I made. And plus, it's scary seeing people just.
I got a friend I have two friends I saw in Costa Rica, good friends of mine I came up with, and I am expecting at least one of them to die in the next 5 years, maybe both, basically. And it's interesting for me because I got hit by Lyme disease when I was 32, 33, really hard, right? So I got hit by that, and then I got hit by the bipolar stuff and lost my mind at the same time. So I've had my health ripped away from me to a really bad degree where I could barely get out of bed for several years. And I clawed my way back from that. But because of that, I appreciate the health stuff in a way that people who have not hit that yet don't. And watching my friends who are our age or a little bit older suddenly start having health problems when they never have, and seeing the horror that comes over them when they realize, like, hey, the bill comes due eventually, it's harrowing in a lot of ways. It makes me,
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it makes me, on the upside, you go through that kind of health issue and you come out the other side. And for me, at least, every day is a bonus day, is what I always say, right? Like, I did not expect to be alive if you talked to me 6-7 years ago and told me I'd be healthy at 44, I would not have believed you whatsoever. So it's definitely given me some perspective that I think is pretty valuable, that a lot of people don't. Actually, my buddy, I've gotten this car wreck years ago, right? Really bad car wreck. And I was talking to a friend of mine about the car wreck and being like, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me. I still deal with it every single day. And a friend of mine was like, well, Chris, though, like, without that car wreck, you might not be the copywriter you are today. And I'm like, fine, I'm fine with that. Cool. I'll be your worst copywriter and not get hit by a semi truck. like I'll take it. You can have half the money I've made if I'm not going to get hit by a semi truck. I'm cool with it. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's crazy. What is your, man, what am I going to ask you? Are your kids going to go to college? Are you big on college? You went to college. Do you think college is worth people going to at this point?
So one's already gone through.
Yep.
Well, I became an instant father when I got married.
Yeah.
But I raised her. She's been mine since she was 5.
Oh, wow.
My girl,
absolutely.
I'm daddy. So she, fascinating. Like I taught her how to sell stuff on Amazon. She was making $12,000 a month when she was 12. And I did a whole product on it called First Sale. A lot of people sold
Yeah,
it.
that's
Stephen
awesome.
Pierce, a lot of guys did years ago, but we did a thing and I taught her. And anyway, she started making money and then she quit doing it.
Yep.
And I tried to force it on her too much and she just moved away. Like I
Yeah.
learned from my mistakes on
It's like
trying
getting your
force
kid to
it.
play piano, right? If you give too
Yeah.
much pressure, they'll never play piano again.
So she went to college and then now she went to law school.
Yep.
And then she just graduated law school and is married. So, but so with her, I kind of knew that was her. She went through like a lot of like, you know, we got to know amazing people like
Yeah,
fast speed reader in the world,
Yep.
you know, and then we met another person and we used to do trades where I'd help them with the marketing and they would work with my kids. And
Yeah.
so my daughter went to like one level that no other kid went to that was
awesome.
even, there was only 2 people in the world ever do it. She was one of them. So, and she's an uber smart kid. And so, you know, she went off in that direction and that's kind of how we knew she would go. My other two, I decided I'm not going to push things on them.
Yeah.
And my second oldest daughter, my daughter, she chooses to, she's been around, she's made money online. We just did a little launch together where she was teaching people TikTok.
Oh, nice.
She made $6,000 in 3 days.
That's
and
fucking
so,
awesome.
but to her, that was it. She just wanted to tell her friends that she made a lot of money and she bought a car.
Oh, sure.
And that was it. And
Yeah.
then she doesn't care about it anymore. She wants to go help kids. And actually that's, if there's dirt on my thing, we volunteer at the animal shelter. So I was at the animal shelter before we got here.
Yeah.
So I kind of smell like dog right now, but she loves animals more than anything, more than money. And so, and she knows that. So she wants to be a veterinarian and she is like an animal whisperer. And so like and even people that know her, like she will walk in and I don't know how she does it, but animals won't be excited to see anybody. And then she sees my daughter.
She just has the thing. Yeah.
She has that magic animal whispering touch. Yep. So I have a feeling she's going to go off in that direction, you know, or do something on her own. Because the other day she looked at how long it'll take to go to college and said, maybe I should just own veterinary clinics and just not be the vet.
Good for her,
like,
dude.
That's a great idea. Like I want to help on that.
Work on the business, not in the business. Man.
Yeah. So she came up with that one. My son said to me the other day, he said, Dad, he goes, you know, because he gets to meet her out. He goes, I watch you versus other dads. And you have the greatest life, Dad. Like you pay other people to do all of the hand stuff. Everybody else is out there mowing the grass. You pay people. Everybody else is out there doing this. You pay people to do stuff. Like you don't do anything except for what you do.
Can I just have a quick aside? My wife, my ex-wife, my first wife, one of the many reasons we got divorced, but she would come to me and she'd be like, I can't believe I married a man who doesn't want to mow his own lawn. And I'm like, why the fuck would I want to mow my own lawn? like I can pay somebody $50 to do that. So I can spend my time either making money or having fun. Like,
yeah. Well, that's what he said. He goes, Dad, I love this. He goes, I really want you to teach me. He goes, Dad, I honestly, he said to me, and I never pushed on him, never gave him an idea. He said, Dad, I hope one day to take over your company. And I'm like, you know, I said, you can start whenever you want. I said, I'm never going to come to you about this.
Yep.
I said, but I will when you ask. You have to ask. If you don't ask, I'm never going to, until that moment. But I said, I want to tell you a little secret, buddy. I said, I created this short email copy course. And I said, because to me, copy is important. And I said, I created that for you. Like now I come from the place of the things that I create online are really for you or your sister if you ever choose to get in this business.
Yep.
Like I come from that place before I create anything I create. And I said, I used to not come from that place, but now I do. And I said, I hope, because even in my will, it says, please watch this if you ever choose to do what I'm doing, because these are the things I want you to know. So I come from that place now. And I said, and he goes, oh, seriously. So he got on one of so I did a 2-day boot camp like 2 weeks ago. And since he said that, I said, man, why don't you come in? And so he got bored really quick. He was like, he watched it. I said, okay, let me go through the things I shared with you stuff. Yeah. And it was funny because I shared with him, you know, what took me hours to teach an older group, taught him in 30 minutes. And he just looks at me and goes, Dad, why don't you just teach me this thing? And I'm like, huh. And I said, you're right. He goes, that's the fast way to make money. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, but it is funny that he just sees things and he's asked me, but he hasn't pursued it. He's in football, he's in basketball. But hopefully maybe one day.
Teenager now, basically.
Yeah, he's 14.
Yeah.
and then my 16-year-old daughter. But basically, maybe one day. He wants to move to, Miami and sit on the beach and just make money, like
Why
sending
not, dude?
emails and
Beats
doing
having a
stuff.
real job, man. I haven't had a real job in 20 years now, almost something like that. I mean, I used to temp and do a bunch of other crap in LA and things. These days, the idea of like having to get up and go to an office is just such a crazy, weird thing to me. Like my office is next to my bedroom and I don't commute at all. And I work 5 hours a day and then just kind of do whatever I want. I try to actually remember to be really grateful for with the life that I've managed to build based off of what I've done in my career at this point, because it's pretty freaking rare. Most people hate their jobs. They hate what they do every single day, which I try to remember because it's horrible.
I love, well, I will tell you, like I fiend. You can ask my wife.
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't do drugs, but I'm like a crack addict. Like
Yeah.
if I don't test in one day, like I'll come home, I'll be a little pissed. My wife's like, what's going on? You not test today? And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God. Like, I don't know, for some reason, that's my dopamine fix every day, is just,
I got really grumpy for a week after I got back from Costa Rica, and I couldn't figure out why at first. And then it was just I hadn't recorded a podcast or like done a mastermind, gotten on Zoom and just bullshitted with my marketing friends in 2 weeks, and it was really depressing me. Like I need that kind of energy and like being around it all the time to feel like myself, as opposed to just being stuck in Seattle like without actually having any marketing people or business people around. Do you have friends who are not in the business, or are you one of those guys that mostly hangs out with entrepreneurs?
No, most of my friends aren't even, they can't even spell computer. They actually think I'm like a computer guy, like, hey man, what's wrong with computer, and call me over. And
I had somebody call me up.
I
A friend called me up once and said, Chris, how do I build a website? And I was like, I build a website by sending an email. I don't know how you build one. Like,
mine's usually like, Matt, I had somebody the other day trying to help. Like, I don't like mine, my family's, my wife is probably one of the closest people to me. She's like my best friend.
That's great. That's how it should be. That's the same with my wife, actually. Yeah.
She's in this business. She's not in this business. She has her own financial planning firm.
My wife was a copywriter when we got together, and that's been great. But being married to a writer is great, because whatever else. But also, like she understands the business well enough to have that respect for me in a way my ex just wasn't able to do, because she didn't understand the business in the same way.
Well, yeah, like my wife and I. So with my wife and I grew up in this business together. In a sense, like she met me, I was already in this business.
Yeah.
But like I was scraping by when I first started. She would make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and we'd drive to Texas, to go to a seminar, and sleep in the car while we were sitting in a seminar. And it was like, I forget who was there. It was Mark, he passed away too. The guy that did guerrilla marketing, and I'm there.
Oh yeah.
And like, just, and she's been like, I always brought her. So one thing I noticed early on, because I was putting on seminars, is that, a lot of times people that are interested, especially starting off, person would go to something and they outgrow their wife, they outgrow their spouse, husband. And so I saw that early on. And so I decided that was going to be us. So like, my wife's been to every single Ted Nicholas mastermind that I've ever been to. Every time I went there, every single Dan Kennedy mastermind I used to go forever. And she's been to every one. And in fact, you could ask any of them, like, she's my secret weapon. Like, and then when I do anything, like I have her review my copy, I come up and like, I brainstorm my wife will come up with the greatest titles, the names, angles. She's like, oh yeah, well, why don't you do this? Or she'll remind me of something that I've done in the past. Like, remember we did this one? And I'm like, oh, I got it. Thanks. Or remember what Ted said, or remember what, Joe, or remember what Dan said in this thing, or
that's awesome. Said. That is so cool. Yeah.
So yeah, she's she is, because every time they write to me, or used to write to me most of the time, it was like, hey, how's Stefan? How are you and Steph? Because when I go to learn, I bring my wife. When I go to sell, she doesn't really come. But that one event I was telling you about, I did for shits and giggles. I sent her to the door, and I said, I need you to stand at the door and just hold your hand out, and I'm gonna make everybody put their order forms in your hands. And so and I just did it because I just wanted to have fun, because she wanted to go to Poland, right? Yeah. And so and plus, hang out with some of the people, but she wanted to go to the event in Poland. So I just said, okay. And so I sent everybody over there, and she goes, oh man, I love this. Like, but I I jokingly told everybody, it's like, my computer is called the ATM machine. Her computer's give the vault. Please go to the vault right now and hand her your order forms. And, but anyway, that's that, because if you don't give it, if you walk through the threshold without handing it to my wife, then that discount goes away. Right. It's
nice.
It worked. Like it looked like a charm, and she just
that is some nice scarcity right there. I love that idea. What do you, if you had somebody who was new, just getting into marketing, getting into copywriting, whatever, what's like the number one or number for top 1 or 2 books that you would recommend they check out?
So I'll tell you, specifically in copywriting, like I will tell you, there's 2 books that I've really enjoyed. And you could probably correct me on the name because they're in the boxes behind me and I haven't got my bookshelf yet.
Yep.
What is it? The 15 word sales letter?
One? Who wrote that? It's I know the guy. He used to work at Agora, and I was on a call with him like 6 months ago for whatever reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Really. I will tell you, I've been around a lot of, copywriters. I really, really enjoyed that one.
It's very concise. It's a very concise approach to it. I really like it.
Yeah, I really got a lot out of that. And there's another one, and let me just see. There was another one, and it's just off the wall book that I found. And I do read copywriting books all the time. Yeah. Let me see and I ordered it. It was let me just type in books. Search books on my Amazon books. This is actually actually I'll show you. So like I can't share, but anyway, so let's see here. Let's see. I kind of go from writer to writer, but it was an off a wall book that was actually in an ad. And it's something about A-lister. It doesn't come up. A-list. Oh, it is. It's the 10 Commandments of A-list Copywriters. Control Beating Breakthroughs by Gary Bensavania, Gene Schwartz. This is by John Bejakovic.
Jakovic, I think so.
Yeah. And I actually liked it so much, I found his email address and I wrote him and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to tell you, I really, really enjoyed your book. And he goes, oh my God, it's Matt Bacak. Like, it was kind of weird, and he said, I can't believe you're saying this. And I'm like, no, I'm always reading. And now those 2 copywriting books, I will tell you, there's probably 2 books that have made biggest impacts from a business perspective. Yeah. One is The Rockefeller Habits. That Rockefeller Habits, specifically inside the Rockefeller Habits, is how I run my meetings. My meetings, I run every week. I run meetings, and my teams, I have different companies that I run, and I meet with my teams. Even I do it virtual, and they basically we go through it where we share good news stories. We go over the numbers. We go over different things, customer employee feedback, what cropping up issues. We go over one big topic, and we basically following that. The numbers that we share are things that make the greatest impact in our business, is like, how many sales with this. Yeah. So I go through all that with the teams, and I meet with my marketing teams, I follow it too. And I meet with different teams. Like I just get critically the numbers are going to impact most. So like following the Rockefeller Habits was a really big impact on me. And then another one is the Great Game of Business.
Ooh, good name. Yeah.
The Great Game of Business, I will tell you, was shared with me years ago. And it was AOYO. It used to be called YPO. And it changed to EO, I believe, Entrepreneurial Organization. And you have to do $1 million or more. They had to give them your books. You do $1 million or more to get invited in.
Oh, cool.
And
okay.
On the recommended reading list was The Great Game of Business. And I read that, and it made a big impact in my businesses. So those two books.
What was kind of the big mess, if you can concisely say it, what was like the big message that you got, or the big lesson you learned from that one?
It was because I was running a lot of people. I think, there was a lot of talking about how to share the profits and how to get people to do stuff and pay attention to little things. Because, over the years, a lot of marketers, I don't know why, but I find that a lot of people don't understand the difference between profits and net revenue and profits, right?
Really, this is a thing I talk about. Actually, I was on the line yesterday with 2 good friends of mine, and we were playing our favorite game, which is how much shit is this person full of, right? So
internet marketing math. Yeah, I got it.
So we were talking about a few people we know. even friends who
Yeah.
say certain numbers and say certain things, but we hear things behind the scenes and we're just
Oh,
like, I think that guy's about 50% full of shit. That guy's only 20% full of shit, but everybody's full of some level of
oh
shit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I will tell you.
Yeah.
Years ago, well, talk about merchant guy. So there was a company before PayPal, before
Yep.
Stripe, for getting people an idea. There was only certain merchant account companies that would really accept us.
Mm-hmm.
That really actually understood internet marketing.
Yeah, it was a rare thing. It was a rare thing to find. Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was one company at the time that a lot of people used, and so I was like the number 2 biggest affiliate over there. And
Mm-hmm.
saying that because only thing is I was the first one in. That's the only reason, right? I actually shared it with a lot of people, and I know like big names, all marketers were underneath me in this. Like,
Yep.
so I got to see the money that was coming in.
Yep.
And people were talking about, oh, I did this launch and I made all this money, and I'm like looking at the order,
You
like
can see
I'm
the
getting
numbers.
reports,
You can see
and
the
I'm like,
numbers. Yeah.
how is that true? Like, you said you made $1 million, but I'm only seeing $100,000 came through the account. Well, I sold 100 people at $1,000 a month or whatever it was, and if they pay for the whole entire year,
Jesus
then
Christ.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Booked
So,
money. Booked money.
I mean, you see that at seminars too, like, oh man, this is a top seller. I'm like, no. Let's look at how much money was put in your account.
Yep.
Like, that's all we can count on. Oh, well then, I mean, or let's wait. I'll tell you what, let's wait.
See what you actually collect.
3 months,
Yeah.
and see who has more money left.
Yeah. What's your drop off?
A liar, because I always tell people when I go into events, I'm like, look, I'll look at the speakers, and I look at the speakers and I was like, listen, I'm not going to be your top salesperson. I'm, what? I thought you were really good. I said, I'm not going to be top. I can't beat a liar. Like, I'm not going to go up there and lie about what I'm going to offer and not deliver on it. I said, but at the end of the day, I bet you I will be your top seller after all the refunds clear on all those people. Because they're not going to get what they promised.
Well, it's just funny. It's like going in this business sometimes. There have been offers. I did a diabetes offer with Brad Howard years ago, and we did pretty well with it, but we weren't willing to lie. We weren't willing to just like go to that point where we're like, you can magically cure your diabetes in 3 weeks. And so eventually we just couldn't compete because we weren't willing to be scumbags about it, basically. Yeah. Like, it's when you have people that are. My version of the merchant cap thing you said is years ago, in the relationship advice niche, I could send one email and do 1,000 or 1,500 sales basically on any of those offers. And I remember one time some friends of mine were running a launch and they were sending out emails like, this launch is doing amazing. It's the best thing we've ever had, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, I'm your number 1 affiliate and I'm making 20 cents a click. You need to shut the fuck up and start telling the truth to your affiliates, because we all talk, and this is not a good look if you're bullshitting the people that are supposed to be making sales for you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a small business.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'll tell you what, and that's actually interesting. I've done a launch where it just same thing, bomb one time.
It happens.
But I said, look, I am discontinuing this offer. I have another offer that really works well if you want to promote it. If not, I'm sorry for ruining your week. But I'll tell you, more people. I remember when I did that, like, holy shit, you had the balls to do that. I'm like,
fall on your sword.
Like, because I know if you're not happy, you're never gonna, probably promote again.
I always say, like, in that business, I always say my job in that business is to make my affiliates money. If I make my affiliates money, then I'll get customers and I can make money on the back of it. But I, like, when I was doing launches, stuff, like, I like making cash, but that's not when I'm doing a launch. It's all about how rich can I make these people so they want to keep sending me traffic and keep doing these things, which isn't, unfortunately, is not always the attitude people have. Whenever you meet people, I had one guy try to rip me off for $3,000 on an affiliate commission years ago, and I was like, why? It's 3,000. Really? like your reputation matters a lot in this business. And if it gets besmirched because you're not willing to be ethical, it'll bite you in the ass for a long time. It's like these copywriters who are being trained to like charge a ton for copy, but have never actually learned how to write yet. So they're going out and they're charging like 15, 20 grand for a sales letter that doesn't convert. And then they're confused when nobody wants to hire them afterwards.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the weirdest thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. We should probably wind it down a little bit because we've gone for quite a while though. This was great. This was I did one with Justin Goff yesterday. I don't know if you know Justin, but like Justin talks like this very slowly the entire, that's just the way he is. He's also from Ohio, but for some reason he's very monotone and low. And it's nice to talk to you because I'm like, oh, energy. Cool. I know what to do. This.
Well, I really do love marketing. I can't. Yeah. I mean, even my dad. So my dad retired 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And he goes like, Matt, when are you going to retire? I'm like, Dad, I said, first of all, when people are handing me money, like just handing me money, like, why would I say no to that? And number two, I don't feel like I'm working. I love marketing. I love it. I love coming up with the angle. I love it.
What changed for me
I
is
love
like,
it when people are successful with it,
yeah,
I guess. I mean, I have created something where, it was too hard for people and it did.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man,
You don't feel good
I
about
don't
it.
want to do this anymore.
Yeah, you don't feel good about it.
But when you're seeing people like, man, like people are actually applying it and actually having success with it, it's like, oh, like, man, I could do this forever.
Back when I would get messages when with my digital romance stuff, and we were running that really hot, I would get messages from people saying, hey man, I tried promoting tons of things on ClickBank. I never made any money. You're paying my mortgage, right? Like they would promote Language of Desire or Text the Romance Back or whatever. And they were making $2, $3, $4 a month. And that was so powerful, right? That is such a great feeling to have people be like, oh man, you're, I don't know. Just the idea that I'm helping these people live a better life and get out of the grind and shit is just one of the most satisfying things I could ever feel personally.
Oh yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun now though, because I've I'm still doing my relationship advice stuff. And I actually, weirdly enough, teaching marketing stuff to people and teaching copy stuff to people has gotten me excited about my own stuff in a way that I just wasn't for several years, because it's just, I don't know, just seeing new people get the ideas and go out there. It's kind of gotten me excited again. But much to your point before about like only wanting to sell products you believe in, like most people in this business, I've sold things I don't believe in the past, especially client work, health related things like that. And it's so much more satisfying selling products that were good, that are actually going to help people that have your name on it. It's I don't know, it just kind of woke me up and brought back my passion for this stuff in a way that I haven't had in a long time.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then I think too is like knowing that I'm actually, hopefully, my kids actually like, I'm saying, like, I tell people, I'm like, look, and I like one of my, I think I said, and it's true. I'm like, look, I honestly want to tell you, I didn't build this for you. I built it for my son for one day when he decides he wants it. Like, that's how much effort, like I remember as one, I put I don't know, 20, 30 hours in something, and then I canned it. And then I said, you know what, let me come from this place, because it was like, coming from this place is more powerful, and it gets my brain going. Like, I want to teach him this. I want to teach him this. I want to teach him this. I want him to know this. Like, this will really put him in.
That is some awesome copy, actually. I mean, I love that idea from a pitch or from a webinar. Just you saying that, like, hey, this is for my son. How much effort and passion do you think I put into a product for my son? That's a super cool piece of copy to use. I like that.
Well, one thing that I thought of the other day, and I told my son, because like, hey, I threw the idea. Like, I said, hey, what we should probably do, I'm kind of excited about doing podcasts. Like you said, I like talking to people. And I was like, maybe you and I do the podcast together.
Okay.
Like, that could be the greatest shift of power, for him.
That's a cool idea for a podcast. Like, yeah, that's actually
like, hey, look, this is, like, what do you want to teach my son? Like, instead of you telling me, like him and my son, it's going to take him a little while to crack him to.
That's that's a good hook for a podcast, man. I dig that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, one of my greatest CDs, I have all these CDs that I had over the years, but one of my greatest CDs that I ever came out with was called the Pillow Talk CD, where I had my wife share all, not the naughty conversations, but the business conversations, the things that kept us up at night, and the things that we talked about regarding business. And I will tell you, that has been a hit, and it still is. And I still use the digital version of that.
Yeah.
After people apply for my, they go and apply for stuff, and I put it as a free gift, because the purpose of that originally was, a lot of people go through and their wife doesn't, support them in the idea. And my wife talks about how, I used to say, we got to work on our money muscles. We got to work on this. And then, now she sits back and just like, so glad we made the decisions that we made, and we made the sacrifice that we made. But like that idea of, her sharing the other side, that worked really well. And that's why I said, it'd be cool for you and me, to just like, hey, look, like, when someone's getting the business, what we tell them, like, and then, because people want to be the fly on the wall too.
Yeah. That's why I do this show the way I do, honestly. I just want it to be people having a conversation. You get to kind of hang out and see, I like them to be similar to the conversations I have with my friends when they're not being recorded about business. Yeah. Just have it be like, hey, this is the real shit. You can see behind the scenes. You can have people talk about failure in a way they usually don't. Nobody has to say they're crushing it all the time. You can talk about all that shit. It's a lot of fun. I like it. I'm having a good time with it. Well, dude, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we finally got to just sit down and chat for a while. I've been wanting to get to know you for years and years, and our paths never crossed in quite the right way. Anything you want to promote or anything while we're closing up here?
No, I mean, not really. I don't have anything. Really anything. I mean, just to say that, I've chosen to stay, keep my lane in the list building email marketing world. I've kind of stayed that tune since actually Butts and Seats. after that, I've stayed in that lane.
Well, I think it's good when people tell you what lane. For me, I was like getting ready to do stuff and they're like, I'm like, what do you guys want to learn from me? And they're like, storytelling and emotional copywriting. I'm like, cool, got it. No problem. Easy. I can do that in my sleep. That is not hard. Cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but actually what's interesting is, and I was saying this thing, like, I remember everybody, when I go to events and people, I'm like, man, I really want to talk about split testing, but nobody wants to talk about it. Like, well, you need to talk about list building market. Like, oh, I want to talk about list. So actually the first time I ever did it 2 years or a year and a half ago, actually it was about a year ago at Dan Kennedy's event, an OBS event. And I think they were like, you could talk. I was like, seriously? I was like, you're in. I'm going to blow their fucking minds. Like, let me talk about it, because nobody wants me to talk about it. They want me, you know, it's like,
well, people put you in a similar thing I'm dealing with right now. Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm a great copywriter, but I've also a pretty fucking good marketer. I've run my own offers and blown them up to 10 million, $20 million a year. But when you're known as the copywriter, they want to put you in the copywriter box all the time. Right. And I'm like, listen, I'm really good at that. But what I'm better at is the thinking part of it and the coming up with the ideas and the names and all that kind of shit. But people just want to put you in whatever little box they want to put you in. It's annoying sometimes. Yeah. All right, cool, man. Well, this has been great. So folks who are listening, thank you so much for hanging out with me and Matt here. Please send me an email saying how you like the show. If you have any people you want to have on the show in the future, let me know. Go to iTunes, go to Spotify, leave some reviews. We like the stars and things like that. And I think that's it. Matt, say goodbye.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for everybody listening.
Yeah, super fun.
And yeah, bye-bye.
All right, cool. Stopping the recording.